So let's start with variance analysis. What is variance? Now, what is variance analysis? Variance analysis, very important concept. Variance analysis. Variance analysis is basically the difference between, it is a difference between standard cost and actual cost. Now, what is standard cost? Standard cost is the cost which management has calculated after doing lot of research, that how much cost should be spent, how much cost should be spent in manufacturing of finished goods. This is the cost which management, after lot of research has forecasted, we can say, has forecasted or has calculated that this is the cost which should have been incurred. So basically standard cost is what? Standard cost is the cost which should be incurred. Now the word should is very important, that basically it is the target, that this should be the cost which the foreman and the workers should incur while manufacturing of finished goods. Okay, manufacturing of finished goods. Now, what is the actual cost? The foremen, the workers are given the target of standard cost, that you have to manufacture the goods within this cost only. But because of various reasons, there are some times that the standard cost is not the actual cost which have incurred. Actual cost is the actual cost which is incurred, which has incurred. So it is a possibility that these two costs does not match, and then there is a concept called variance which originates. So variance is a difference between standard cost and actual cost. For example, if a management tells the foreman that the product finished goods should be manufactured in 700 rupees. So 700 rupees should be the standard cost. Standard cost can be written as SQ. So the product should be manufactured in rupees 700, but foreman, instead of spending 700 rupees, foreman has spent rupees 1000 in manufacturing of the finished good. Actual cost incurred is 1000, and the cost that should have been incurred is 700. So there is a difference of rupees 300, right? Now this 300 is called as variance. Definitely this 300 rupees difference is not a good difference, because 700 should have been spent and 1000 has been spent. So this is not a good sign. This is called as adverse variance. Now, why the hell worker has spent 1000 when the worker was instructed to spend 700? Instruction was given. Standard cost can be said as instructions. Instructions was given to be spent 700, and why the worker has spent 1000? Definitely there must be some reason. What is the reason? Predominantly there are two reasons. Foreman must have done some wastages or must have been inefficient. If the workers are inefficient, if the workers do wastage, if there is not proper planning, no proper planning, then no proper planning. Let me rewrite it. Just a second. Yes. Now, why is there this difference coming up? Why there is a variance origination? Because of three reasons, and predominantly the one of the main reason is wastage. Then the second reason can be your inefficiency, and the third reason can be your not proper planning, no proper planning. These are the reasons which results in cost getting increased. You was told to spend 700, but you are spending 1000. So just to investigate, now what is we know variance is 300 rupees. What is variance analysis? To investigate that why the hell instead of 700, 1000 is spent. What are the reasons behind this origination of variance is called variance analysis. When you get into the investigation part, when you start investigating, see, you were given a target of to spend 700, you have spent 1000 rupees. So there is a 300 rupees of variance, right? Now, if you start investigation that why is there is adverse variance investigation, that why variance took place, then that is called variance analysis. At least the company should know what reasons have resulted in this variance origination. So basically, we have to figure out the reasons, and predominantly, mostly there are three reasons only. Wastage, the company, the workers must have done some wastage. What was told that use this much of quantity of material, they must have used more quantity of material. They must have told that use the quantity of material in particular way, and that particular way has not been used, because of which more material has been used. Then labor was told to finish the work in 5 hours, and labor took 7 hours to finish the work. Then labor is inefficient. So inefficiency, wastage, all this will result in the variance origination, and variance can be adverse as well as favorable. If now this 700 was standard quantity, sorry, standard, I should say, this 700 was standard cost, right? And this 1000 is actual cost. This is case 1. There could be a case when standard cost is 700 rupees and worker has incurred, let's say, actually in actual they have incurred only 600 rupees. Now will the management be happy that the workers have saved 100? This 100 is termed as favorable variance because you have saved on cost. Cost was supposed to be spent 700 and you have spent only 600 rupees, so there is 100 rupees of saving, so it is termed as favorable variance. So should the management be happy? Answer is no. Management is still sad. Why? When management has forecasted that the cost that should have been incurred 700, they must have done some calculation. If cost is not incurring 700, instead of it is incurring 600, it implies that low quality product is made. Suppose suppose a chapter is to be finished by me within 10 hours and I finish it within 1 hour. What does it imply? You should be happy. No. That means I have compromised on the quality. Then only the time will be saved. So even if the cost is saved, management is still not happy because management wants the foreman, the workers to spend 700 rupees only, because this 700 rupees has been calculated after a lot of research. Neither they want favorable variance, neither they want adverse variance. They just want you to incur actual cost should meet the standard cost. Even the word favorable is used, but it is not favorable to company wants actual cost to be equal to standard cost. And in the both cases, whether favorable or whether adverse, favorable, it is favorable in terms of money. Only in terms of money it sounds favorable because 100 rupees is saved, but otherwise quality is definitely compromised. Then otherwise how hell can 700 rupees material product be manufactured in 600 rupees? So definitely quality is compromised. Hence, the management just wants to investigate why there is a favorable variance or why there is an adverse variance. That investigation is called variance analysis. Okay. Now, one more important thing, which is just, we are just talking general things. Okay. Just general things, preparing the base foundation to start with my concept. Now, before starting the variance analysis portion, let's revise something of foundation level. Now we have got down to foundation level. See, what, let's say, how can you bifurcate the cost? Cost can be bifurcated in many ways, and one of the ways to bifurcate the cost is direct cost and indirect cost. This you all must be knowing. Indirect cost is also called as overheads. This you also must be knowing. In short form, it is termed as OH. Now, what is the direct cost? What do you mean by direct cost? Very simple. Direct cost is the cost which is clearly, easily identifiable through the eyes. How much the cost has been spent on manufacturing of finished goods. It is basically easily, let me write the word easily identifiable, or I should say traceable, or I should use the word attributable to finished goods. Suppose I manufacture calculator. Okay. So in this calculator, whatever cost can be easily seen with my naked eyes, what I can see that, okay, these buttons are being put on this calculator. There is a panel inside which does the calculation part. So all this hardware cost can be directly seen. So if you can easily measure, this is the word, can be easily measurable. Easily measurable implies that you can easily say ki, okay, 70 rupees of material has been used in preparation of this calculator, and it is easily attributable. You can easily see, okay, 70 rupees worth material is going into this product. It was actually picked up and used in this product. Easily measurable. And then it is a major cost. It is not a small cost, it is a major cost. Then it will cover under direct cost. But if some cost which is incurred but cannot be easily identified, how much has been spent on this calculator? Suppose in my company calculator is made, in my company mic is made, okay, in my company telephone mobiles are also made. So now there are many costs. For example, there is an electricity cost. We are talking foundation level. Let me talk, you listen. Okay, suppose there is electricity spent in the factory. Electricity bill is coming 5,000 rupees. Now, please, can you tell me, in my factory, I manufacture mobile phone also. I manufacture, let us say, mouse pad also, and I manufacture calculator also. Now, can anybody easily tell me that this cost of 5,000, how much is spent on manufacturing of calculator? It cannot be easily measured. It can be measured. Definitely this 5,000 electricity bill has been spent in order to manufacture these three finished goods. But it cannot be easily measured. It cannot be easily attributable. This 5,000 cannot be easily apportioned. You understand apportion? Apportionment means division. You cannot easily divide that how much money has been spent on manufacturing of calculator. So when such a situation is there, that cost is called indirect cost, or any minor cost is automatically considered under the heading of indirect cost. So even if a direct cost, even if a cost which is directly attributable, but it is a minor cost, it will come to indirect cost. So indirect cost is basically that cost which cannot be easily apportioned, or it is a minor cost. Okay. So direct cost and indirect cost. Now, see, why are we learning all this? Because under variance analysis, we have to investigate why actual cost is not matching up with standard cost. We have to do the investigation. Before doing investigation, we have to bifurcate the cost. How many types of cost are there? Bit by bit, pieces by pieces, we are going to pick each cost we are going to pick and check, okay, this much cost should have been incurred, but in actual this cost was incurred, these were the reasons. So for we have to bifurcate first the cost into various parts, and then for each cost we have to do the variance analysis. I'll explain you. So cost can be direct cost or indirect cost. Now direct cost, and there is an indirect cost, right? Direct cost is basically can be divided in three parts. The raw material, which is directly attributable to finished goods and it's a major cost involved in it, then it is called direct cost, direct material cost. Then the labor cost, which is spent in manufacturing of the product, labor cost. The labor can be direct labor or indirect labor also. Suppose there is a foreman. Suppose there is a foreman. He charges rupees 10,000 and the foreman is managing the three products. Now, can you easily apportion or divide the foreman's salary into the three parts, that how much salary is devoted to manufacturing of calculator? No, it is not easily attributable. But whatever labor is required in manufacturing of this calculator can be easily attributable. So there are some labor costs which can be easily uh, divided, or can be easily seen how much has been spent in manufacture of the product, and there are some labor costs which cannot be easily apportioned. Okay, that is will be categorized under overheads. So there is direct labor cost, and other direct expenses are also there, if any. Then similarly, there will be indirect cost. Now, indirect cost we will classify into two parts. Some indirect cost is variable overheads. Overheads implies what? Indirect cost. And some indirect costs are fixed. They are termed as fixed overhead. So now what we are going to do, indirect cost has been classified not in material labor, no. Indirect cost can be of material also, indirect cost can be of labor also, indirect cost can be of any other cost also. We have classified indirect cost into variable and fixed portion. Okay. Now what we are going to do, in the previous page I wrote here the standard cost to manufacture the good is 700 rupees. Now this 700 rupees includes the direct material cost also, direct labor cost also, direct expenses also, variable overheads also, and fixed overheads. It's a total cost. Now you want to investigate why the hell 700 rupees is not spent, 1000 is spent. So when you have to do the investigation, you have to do in bits and parts. So what we are going to do, we are going to investigate each cost. We are going to investigate each cost, that why each cost, what, let me write like this, just a second. Why, what each cost, let me write like this, standard cost minus actual cost, variance. For each cost, dear friends, for each cost, we have to compute the standard cost, meaning we have to compute how much standard material cost was supposed to be spent and how much actually was spent. Then how much labor standard cost was to be spent and how much actual labor cost was spent. Then how much direct standard cost was to be spent and how much actual direct expense was spent. How much variable overhead standardly should have been spent and how much actual variable overheads has been spent. For each cost, we are going to compute standard cost as well as what is actually being spent, and compute variances, whether they were favorable or adverse and what are the reasons between the difference, so that company can take the corrective actions why the cost is increasing or decreasing. So for each type of cost, we are going to compute standard cost and actual cost. In the first two lectures, we are going to discuss direct material cost. So let us start with our lecture, that is direct material cost. What I mean is, let us start with concept. Now we are starting with a concept. We are going to first of all do direct material cost variance computation or variance analysis. This is our concept that we have to discuss in our lecture, direct material cost variance. Now before starting direct material cost variance, we have to do little bit of 5 minutes discussion more on standard and actual word. Okay, this word standard cost, actual word cost is very important. So we have to learn more about it. So let's do that. Now just take an example and try to understand the difference between understand the meaning of standard cost. This is a very important example and a very small example, okay, but this will help us to understand better what is standard cost. Now for example, the management has instructed, please see what I'm writing, management has instructed the foreman before manufacturing has started, the foreman was called in the management room, and foreman was given all the instructions. And what instruction was given that, dear foreman, in order to manufacture 10 units of finished goods, in order to manufacture 10 units of finished goods, only use 100 kg of raw material. This is basically standard quantity of raw material. In short form, it is written SQ. Why standard quantity? Because this is an instruction which is given to the foreman that this should be done. This should be done. This should be done. This was the instruction. Basically, they tried to explain him the relationship. What relationship? Relationship between finished goods and the cost. And that to which cost? Standard cost. The management was trying to tell foreman that if you are going to produce, if, please understand the word if you are producing 10 units, then use only 100 units. Okay. Then in the month of January, this was the instruction given. Then what happened is, in the month of January, foreman was called and was asked that, foreman, in the January, the sales team has forecasted that the only 9 units can be sold. So please manufacture only 9 units. Don't manufacture 10 units, only manufacture 9 units. Foreman said, okay. So foreman produced, actual output which was produced is 9 units. Now, this is no mistake of foreman. Foreman was asked by management to manufacture 9 units because sales team forecasted that sales cannot be exceeded beyond 9 units. So please manufacture 9 units of finished goods. Okay. Now, after analyzing, please see here. After the month of January, when month of January was completed, foreman was called and foreman was asked the detail. Foreman was asked that, dear foreman, please tell us on 9 units. 9 units was what? 9 units was your actual output. How much have you spent on production, or how much quantity of raw material you have used in manufacture of 9 units? And foreman with a smiling face was saying that we have used in actual quantity of raw material which we have used is 95 kg. He was smiling that you told me to use 100 kg and 100 kg and I used 95 kg. The management was very much furious. Why? Because 100 kg was supposed to be used for 10 units. But since the actual production took place of only 9 units, how the hell foreman used 95 kg? What I mean to say is that the foreman used actual quantity which was consumed of raw material in manufacture of 9 units is 95 kg. So the management asked foreman, why did you use 95 kg? Let us compute first how much standard quantity should have been used, SQ. Actual quantity is represented by AQ and standard quantity is represented by SQ, quantity of raw material. Okay. Now standard quantity. Normally student says 100 kg is the standard quantity. See ma'am, it is written here. Answer, if you say 100 kg, then if you say 100 kg, then this is completely wrong. Then this is completely wrong because 100 kg was for 10 units. Since actual production was only of how many kgs? 9 kgs, right? So for 9 units, the standard quantity is different. Ma'am, you just wrote that standard quantity is 100 kg. That is what we have to understand. 100 kg of raw material is to be used for 10 units. This was just an estimation. This was just a instruction given to the worker. That if I told you the word if you produce 10 units, then only use 100 kg. So 100 kg is a standard quantity, but for 10 units. So don't fall for this word SQ. SQ is standard quantity. Yes, it is standard quantity. Definitely it is standard quantity, but for 10 units. So what I want to say is that using unitary method, okay, using unitary method for 10 units, 100 kg was the standard quantity. For 9 units, standard quantity is 90 kg. This is also standard quantity. This is also standard quantity for 9 units. And 9 units is the actual production, actual output. Can I write like this? This is standard quantity. This 90 kg is standard quantity for actual output. Please, my dear students, this is the main standard costing concept. This word is very, 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 very important. 90% students mistake this to be the standard quantity 100 kg. 100 kg was only a reference given to the foreman that this is also standard quantity, but 10 units. 10 units was only a budget. But in actual, how much have you produced? 9 units. So whatever in actual you produce, you have to investigate that whether it has been produced correctly or not. Whatever the planning was of 10 units, 20 units, 30 units, forget about that. What you have actually produced, check that whether it has been produced correctly or not, within the limit, within the standard cost or not. So now the nutshell of the story is, whenever I will ask I'll ask you, what is the standard quantity? I am talking for actual output, because on actual output, please understand, on actual output, whole variance analysis is based. Now from this concept, one should understand that when we will be doing the reconciliation part, when we have to reconcile the budgeted profit with actual profit, there it is obviously that this will not match, because budgeted profit must have been based on budgeted quantity of finished goods. Yeah, I should say budgeted output. You must have planned that we will manufacture 10 units of finished goods, so profit would have been computed accordingly. But in actual, you might have manufactured only 9 units, so profit will be according to that only. So definitely the profit will not match. So there we have to write that, we have to make a reconciliation. So when I will be explaining that, then you have to understand that, oh yes, how can profit match? That profit has been budgeted profit is based on budgeted output, and actual profit is based on actual output. When finished goods quantity is different, when finished goods output is different, then definitely profit measurement will be different. So how can they reconcile? We have to then prepare a reconciliation statement for that. So keeping this aside, what I want you to understand is that in next 5-6 lectures, you have to understand that the whole standard quantity, when I will ask you standard cost, standard quantity. Standard quantity of what? Standard quantity of raw material. We are talking about raw material. Should be not considered 100 kg, should be considered 90 kg. In our example, 100 kg was just a reference given to you, relationship given to you, just to understand, or I should say just to compute standard quantity for actual output. So should we pat the foreman or should we beat the foreman? Should we appreciate the foreman or should we punish the foreman? Foreman has actually used 95 kg and he was supposed to use only how much kg of raw material? 90 kg. So call the foreman, and then we will call the foreman. Foreman actual output which he produced is 9 units. We have to do the investigation, just a second, investigation on actual output, whatever has been produced, whatever you have planned is, forget about that. What you have produced 9 units, now check on 9 units what is the actual quantity of raw material used or consumed, Actual quantity of raw material consumed was 95 kg, and what standard quantity of raw material should have been used was only 90 kg, which you have computed before in the previous page, computed in previous page. Now you have to investigate that 90 kg was supposed to be used, you used 95 kg. Why? There can be many reasons. For example, raw material was of substandard quantity. So instead of 90 kg, 95 kg was supposed to be used. So why the substandard raw material was used when there was an instruction told to foreman that 90 kg is to be used, or there was some wastage, or there was some pilferage. There can be a theft of raw material. That is why 95 kg raw material was used, or some not raw material was not used properly. That is why 95 kg was used. There can be n number of reasons, but at least now we know that the cost must have risen up because the quantity of raw material, the usage of raw material is more than what was supposed to be done. Now, in the whole story till now, I want my students to understand this word. Which word? This standard quantity you have to compute for actual output. The question line can start from this. I'll show you. The question can talk about that we plan to produce 10 units, we plan to produce 200 units. Forget that. Planning only tells you a reference to compute standard cost. Let me restate my line. The budgeting helps you to just give you, it helps you to give you a reference that how much should have been spent, how much should have been spent. It only helps you to take a reference for computation of standard quantity. Ultimately, standard quantity has to be computed on actual output. Like in this, we computed that for 10 units, 100 kg was supposed to be used. This is only for reference. Now for 9 units, how much should have been used? So standard quantity or standard cost has to be computed for actual output. So please write a tutorial note. Please write a tutorial note. The tutorial note is compute standard quantity or standard cost. Whatever type of cost you are computing, whether of labor, whether of variable overheads, whether of raw material cost, whatever cost you are computing, compute whatever cost computing, compute standard quantity or standard cost for actual output of finished goods. Is it clear? It will be more clearer as we go on to the main questions. Okay. First, this is very important. So please, if you want to write down anything, I'll tell you what you should write down. Till now, I have not started anything. I'm just explaining the small words. Please write down. You have to, you don't have to write anything of this. You can write down this example, whatever I have taught conceptually, you can write down, pause the screen and write down. You can pause the screen and write down, I'm changing the sheet. This also you can write down. I was trying to explain that there can be an adverse variance as well as there can be a favorable variance also. Adverse and favorable. But I was trying to tell you that even favorable variance doesn't make the management happy. In terms of money, it might sound nice, favorable, but why the cost did not actually incur was not equal to standard cost, that is a reason to investigate. You can write down this also, what is direct cost, what is indirect cost, and then direct cost is bifurcated in 3 parts and indirect cost is bifurcated in 2 parts. Pause the screen and write it down. I'm changing the sheet. This example is very important. Please write it down. Pause the screen and write down. Write this also. Don't write what is written in the bracket. Just write the calculation of unitary method. Pause the screen and write it down. This just tutorial note is required to be written. If you want to write down this also, you can do so. But main is tutorial note that for computing standard quantity or standard cost, always look up to the budgeted finished goods. No, look up to the actual finished goods which have been produced. For actual finished goods, you have to compute two parts. That is what cost should have been incurred and what cost has been incurred. Okay. Now let us go to a let us now do an example, a comprehensive example, a proper interlevel comprehensive example of material cost variance. Now, one thing you should understand, ma'am, at final level only reconciliation will come in paper. Answer is no. The whole chapter is divided in two parts. One is your variance computation and another is your reconciliation. So question can be asked from material cost variance like interlevel also. So don't think that you have to just focus on reconciliation. This what I am trying to teach you now, which is of interlevel, will can be easily and maximum time it is asked in final level also. Okay, because this is a complicated concept. So in order to understand the material cost variance computation, I am going to write an example, and through that example we are going to learn. Just a second. Okay. Interlevel, that is interlevel concept it is basically, but it is equally important in final level. Material cost variance computation. Now, in order to understand this concept, you have to solve this comprehensive problem. Now, what is the problem? Please write down. Please write down an example. Case 1. There are two cases which we will discuss. One without normal loss and another one with normal loss. Okay. So, case 1 is a basic case, basic computation. Particulars, material A, material B, then standard information, then actual information, standard information and actual information, then under standard we'll create two columns, under actual also we'll create two columns. This is your, let's do one thing, let's write material A here and material B here. Okay, let's do a bit of correction so that we have got space. Okay, this is material A, and then now this is quantity, this is unit price. This is as an example through which I'll explain you, and you will see that we are going to create formulas by ourselves. 30 kg, 20 kg, rupees 20 per kg, rupees 10 per kg, 44 kg, 66 kg, rupees 25 per kg, rupees 5 per kg, and then in the end In the end output, here it is 45 kg and here it is 90 kg. Now the question is asking compute all relevant material cost variance. This is a question. Let us start with this question. Okay, so now this is the information through which we are going to understand material cost variance. Now, what is variance? We know very clearly what is variance. What have I told you about variance? Variance is a difference between standard cost and actual cost. Now, since you are going to study material cost variance, so standard material cost and actual material cost. Now, what is the standard? The cost which should have been incurred, whatever material cost should have been incurred, and what is actual cost? The actually what material cost has incurred. So, should and has incurred, that is the difference. Okay. Now, this information we are going to use to understand material cost variance computation. Now, what is this information given? Let us read. Now, there are two columns. One is representing standard information and another is representing actual information. Now, standard, I told you standard has various meanings. In the previous part, I've told you standard information can be for the budgeted output also, for actual output also. So standard, just telling, standard is a reference. This information should be used as a reference to understand how much should have been spent. Okay, but keeping in mind that what is the actual quantity produced, that is very important. Okay, not, let's not make it confusing. Let's read the information. Before reading the information, I am calling my foreman. Let me call my foreman first, then only I will read my information. What I am trying to say is, let me call my foreman, that is my worker, let us say worker 1, and I am going to instruct him. I am going to give him instructions, and those instructions will represent the standard information that this should have been done. Should have been done. I am going to give him the first duty. I am going to basically give him 3 duties. If he performs his duties perfectly, then standard cost will be equal to actual cost. But if he does not perform his duty perfectly, then there will be origination of variance. There will be birth of variance. Now coming back to question, I am telling my supervisor, my foreman, that foreman, listen to me carefully, that in order to produce output of 45 kg, this is finished goods. Finished goods are not represented in units, it is also represented in kg in my example. Okay, so in order to produce standard output of 45 kg, standard means what we have planned, standard what should be done. So in order to produce 45 kg, there are two types of raw material which will be used, material A and material B. Now what is your duty is that material A and B total has to be used 50 kg. Please listen to my words carefully. I did not mention 30 and 20. I said total 50 kg should be used by you if you want to produce how much? 45 kg of finished goods. So I told my employee, I told my foreman that the first instruction which you have to follow is, if you produce, see, understand, if 45 kg output you produce, then that for that standard quantity of input, you understand, input raw material should be 50 kg of raw material. This is your first instruction. Then I am giving him second instruction. Basically, this information should be used as reference in unitary method, because I do not know whether in actual 45 kg of finished goods have been produced or not, but I'm just telling my foreman, I'm telling him that for producing 45 kg, you should use 50 kg of input. Don't use more than that. Okay. Okay. My foreman has understood that. Then I told him that second instruction. While using 50 kg of raw material, equal quantity should not be used. There is a particular proportion which has to be used. See, if you are wearing a cotton shirt, then in the cotton shirt 90% is cotton and 10% is nylon, right? If by mistake 90% nylon is mixed and 10% cotton is mixed, would not that affect the quality of the product? So similarly here also, material has to be mixed in a certain proportion. What proportion is to be used? 3 is to 2. In 3 is to 2 proportion, in 3 is to 2 proportion, the material should be mixed. Whatever material you are going to use, I have told you to use 50 kg, but whatever material you will use in actual production, that has to be mixed in 3 is to 2. Please do not mix in wrong proportion. With folding hands, I am requesting my foreman to follow this instruction. So I am going back and telling my foreman the second instruction, that mix raw material A and B in which proportion? 2 is to, sorry, 3 is to 2. He said, ma'am, yes, definitely I'll do the same. Whatever you are telling me, I'll do exactly the same. I said, okay, very good. I'm very happy. Then the third instruction I'm giving him, to the field manager. I'm calling the field manager and I'm asking him that whatever, I'm calling whom? Field manager. Okay. Uh, until now I was talking to foreman, now I'm calling field manager. And field manager is the one who goes in the field and purchases the raw material. And I am telling the field manager that whatever raw material foreman asks you to buy, whatever, I have told the foreman how much to use raw material, in which proportion to use, he will do his best. But what is your duty is, let us say field manager is Mr. B and foreman is Mr. A. So I'm telling Mr. B that whatever quantity Mr. A asks you to buy, go to the market and buy at this rate, standard rate, 20 rupees and 10 rupees per kg. Ma'am, should I buy 30 kg, 20 kg? I told him, Mr. B, do not get into the role of Mr. A. Mr. A will decide how much quantity to buy. I have explained everything to Mr. A. You just have to buy the quantity at the right price. Don't think how much quantity to buy. How much quantity to be purchased will be told to you by Mr. A. Your duty is to buy, duty number 3 is coming. This was duty 2, this is duty 1. To buy material A at standard price. See, what did I write? Standard price, SP. Standard price. Start learning the small annotations also. Standard price to be rupees 20 per kg. And for material B, the standard price is rupees 10 per kg. So I told that, again please listen to me what I am saying, that Mr. B is saying, ma'am, should I buy this quantity? I am telling him, don't think about quantity. Whatever Mr. A wants the quantity, buy that quantity. Whether he wants more or less, that is his problem. You just have to buy at the right price. So Mr. B says, okay ma'am, I have understood my duty. I have to buy the raw material at the correct price. If my foreman and field manager does the job exactly told to them, then definitely standard cost will be equal to actual cost. But if God forbid they do some mistake in executing these instructions, then it will result in variance, because then actual cost will not match up the standard cost. So let's see what they have done. Now this is the standard information. Now this is the actual information which took place in the month of, let us say, January. And let me tell you one more thing, that the foreman was called and foreman was told that in actual output in January produced 90 kg. See, this information was given for reference. The foreman was never told to manufacture 45 kg. He was told that if you produce 45 kg, then use 50 kg of raw material. So if you produce more or less, accordingly proportionately change the raw material. So I have already underlined the word if. So his instruction was not to manufacture 45 kg. His instruction was to manufacture whatever quantity, but use the standard quantity of input. So okay. So coming back to my question, I told you in the very beginning that whole variance analysis concept, the complete chapter is based on actual output. Before solving the question, now we are going to solve the question. Before start solving the question, ask what finished goods have been produced in actual. So I am calling my foreman, and before calling my foreman, let me tell you one additional story. I'm adding something to the story. While in the month of January, I, as a owner of this company, was away from the factory. I have gone to some vacation. I was not available. The foreman and field manager was managing the whole show. And I have gone to some vacation. I have come back and got, and I have got a, let's say, I'm very happy because I know my foreman and field manager is very happy, is very consistent in whatever I tell them. So I am expecting that my foreman and my field manager has done their job perfectly. Since I was out on vacation, I do not know this information. What actual has incurred, what actual has been used, what at what actual price quantity has been purchased. I do not know any of this information. I have just come after the month of January, that is January end, in the end of the January I have come, and I am now going to meet up the foreman and field manager. So basically as a owner I am not aware of this information. Okay, now let me start talking to the manager, and let me start talking to the foreman and the field manager and see what have they done. This is the information given to you. For your reference, I'm telling you that actual output they have produced is 90 kg, which is nothing wrong in it. This was only reference. Actual output is 90 kg. So whole discussion will be on 90 kg. So let's start. Let's start talking to the foreman and the field manager on the fresh page. So I have come to the factory after 1 month, right? And I immediately went to the I have immediately went to the warehouse. And the moment I have opened the warehouse, I saw the finished goods which are manufactured were 90 kgs because actual output is 90 kg. So I myself saw that the 90 kg is the actual output. Actual output was 90 kg, right? Now, before preparing the answer, I also want to start formal solution. Just a sec. Give me a minute, please. This is the table which we prepare after doing all the computations. So I'm just preparing the. Okay. So going back to my concept, I have gone to warehouse and I have asked the I didn't ask anybody. I just opened the door of warehouse and I saw approximately 90 kg of finished goods was available there. I said, okay, that means actual output is 90 kg. Now I have to check. Now what is my target? I have to check whether 90 kg finished goods have been prepared properly or not. I have to check whether the 90 kg, what should have been the standard cost and what is the actual cost. Is there any difference or not? Whether there is any variance or not. This I have to check. So if my workers have followed the instruction in manufacturing 90 kg, that is the actual output, then there would not be any variance. So I called up, if for example, if I write like this, if my workers have not done any mistake, no mistake, then can we calculate the standard material cost? Can we calculate the standard material cost? Just a second, please. Can we compute okay. Now can we compute the standard material cost? Yes, we can compute. I have not yet started the discussion with my foreman or the field manager. I have just come to the factory and I hope and I assume that everything has been done as per my instructions. So what was my instruction? Please tell me what was my instructions. My instruction, first instruction was Please let's see the instruction. First instruction was that if you manufacture 45 kg, then 50 kg of raw material should have been used. Okay. So I'll use it as a reference that if 45 kg finished good is produced, then 50 kg is the standard quantity of input. Accordingly, if I use unitary method, since my workers have produced 90 kg of finished goods, 90 kg of finished goods, how much raw material should have been used proportionately? Very simple. A small school going kid can also compute this thing. 50 into 90 divided by 45. So basically it is coming out to be 100 kg. 50 into 90 divided by 45. Yes, 100 kg. So what is this 100 kg? This is the standard quantity. Ma'am, standard quantity was 50 kg. Yes, it was 50 kg for 45 kg of output. But since my workers has produced 90 kg of finished goods, accordingly, this is the standard quantity for actual output of finished goods. In short form, it is written SQ for AQ, that is 100 kg. So if my workers has performed the duty number 1 correctly, then in order to produce 90 kg, the workers should have used raw material 100 kg. What was my second duty given to my workers? The second duty given to my worker was that the raw material which they are going to use, the total raw material should be used in this proportion. Okay. So if they have done the duty properly, then material A and material B. Total material should have been how much? 100 kg. This should have been used in the proportion of 3:2. So if I multiply 100 into 3 by 5 and 100 into 2 by 5, then how much do I get? 100 into 3 by 5. I'm getting 60 kg. And this will come 40 kg. So basically 60 kg and 40 kg raw material should have been used if my worker has followed my instruction. Okay. I'm writing it on a piece of paper so that when I talk to my foreman, I know whether they have done this or not. Then the third instruction which I gave to my field manager. The third instruction which I gave to my field manager was that the material cost should have been 20 rupees per kg and 10 rupees per kg. This was the instruction given to them. Okay. So let's do one thing. Now the third, I'll write on the next page. So basically they should have used 60 kg, 40 kg, that is total 100 kg in order to manufacture 90 kg of finished goods. And the prices should have been 20 rupees and 10 rupees. So I have prepared a table at this side, a proper 4 columns, in which I am going to write here standard cost, and this is very important what I am going to write, for actual output. Now if my workers have performed the task well, properly as per instructions, then for material A and B, let me write here A and let me write here B. A should have been used 60 kg and B should have been used 40 kg, right? Total, basically I should write like this, total 100 kg should have been used. This was duty number 1. Then 60 and 40 was the proportion. This was duty number 2. And third instruction was that the rate should have been 20 rupees per kg and 10 rupees per kg. So total how much this comes? 1200 and 400. This is coming out to be 1600 rupees should have been spent. This is the standard cost. See what I have written? Standard material cost. Raw material should have been spent of rupees 1600 only if my workers have followed my instruction. This is the chart which I have already prepared after going to warehouse and looking at actual output. Now my dear students, can you always remember the whole calculation has to be based on actual output? Say yes ma'am, we will remember. Okay. Now going back to our computation. Now let's call our workers. Let's call our workers. And I'm calling my workers. I'm calling my workers and I'm asking my worker. First instruction. First duty. Okay, supervisor, tell me what have you done in actual? Have you used on 90 kgs of finished goods, on 90 kg of finished goods, have you used 100 kg of raw material? Let us check what my foreman has done. On 90 kg of output, the workers have used how much? 44 plus 66. How much is coming? 110 kg of raw material. First duty they have not followed. First duty they have not followed. I told them very clearly that if you want to produce 45, use 50 kg. Accordingly, if you want to produce 90 kg, use only 100 kg. And my foreman, my dump foreman has for 90 kg output, he has used actual input, actual quantity of raw material. He has used how much? 110. I'm very sad. I'm very sad. And please understand now, very important thing, very, very important thing. Since I told you I was away in the January month, so I don't know whole information. I just know what he's telling me. I can't see this paper. Okay, so forget about this paper. I just asked him one thing. I just asked him one thing, that have you used 100 kg? He told me 110 kg he used. I have still not come across the fact that he has also changed the proportion also. I have not asked him about the second duty. I have just figured out only the first mistake he has done. First mistake is that he has wrongly used material. He was supposed to use only 100 kg and he has used 110 kg. Only first mistake has been discovered. This is very, very important. Now, after listening to the first mistake which he has done, I want to know how much effect it has caused on the amount, rupees. I do not, please understand, I do not know the second mistake. I even don't know the third mistake also. There was third duty also. There was third duty also. Let me write here. There was duty third also, which was of price. I do not know about this also, not yet discovered, not yet discovered. I just only know that he has used raw material instead of 100 kg, he has used 110 kg. I still don't know whether he has changed the proportion or not. So I'm assuming the standard proportion, sorry, 3:2. I'm still assuming standard proportion. Ma'am, why are you assuming standard proportion? Because I want to analyze why the cost has increased. So I will analyze in bits and parts. I will pick up first mistake and see what impact it has caused on the amount spent. Then I will add the second mistake. Then I will acknowledge the third mistake. So I am going to analyze bits and parts. So first mistake is that he has used more quantity of raw material. Instead of 100 kg, he has used 110 kg. So I don't know whether the proportion has been changed or not. So I'm assuming the proportion is still the standard proportion. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? I have not yet figured out the second mistake he has done. I'm just want to know how much effect the first mistake has done on the cost. So just only the quantity has changed, and no, suppose my foreman has not done any mistake on the mixing, not done any mistake on the pricing. He has just done a mistake that instead of 100 kg he has used 110 kg. Can we just check that how much amount of money has changed because of his mistake? Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's divide 110 into 3 by 5. How much is coming? 110 into 3 by 5. So this is coming out to be 66 kg. This is coming out to be 44 kg. This is the standard proportion. This is how have we computed 110 into 2 by 3. And I even do not know that my dear field manager has done mistake regarding price also. So I'm assuming the standard price also only. This is 1320 rupees and this is coming out to be 440 rupees. So how much price this is coming out? Just have patience with me. For half an hour, have patience with me. You will understand material cost variance in my way, in my fashion. Okay, conceptually. So can you see, because of his first mistake, only first mistake, no price mistake considered, no proportion mistake considered, only the first mistake, the cost has increased from 1600 to 1760. Can you see this? Just because of you have used the material wrongly, material, it is called sub usage variance. Sub usage variance, because you have wrongly used the quantity. You were supposed to use 100 kg, you have used 110 kg. Only the first mistake. The standard cost was 1600, but the actual, now after considering the first mistake, the actual cost has gone up to 1760. So basically you had a variance of 160 adverse. Adverse is written in the bracket. Just a second. So basically, this is called as material usage variance. From the first mistake, there is currently notified that the variance which has arise is of 160 rupees. Now let us go back and acknowledge the other mistakes also. In this case, in up till now computation, we have only acknowledged the first mistake, but we have given him duty number 2 also. What was duty number 2? That whatever quantity he is going to use has to be used in which proportion? 3:2. This was his duty. Please ask me, whatever quantity he has used 110 kg, has he used in 3:2 proportion? 3:2 proportion implies 66 kg of A and 44 kg of B. But unfortunately, he has not used 66:44. Rather, he has used 44 of A and 66 of B. He has changed the proportion. Instead of using 3:2 proportion, he has done 2:3 proportion. And I just told you, if you change the proportion of raw material, the quality of the product gets hampered. So he has not followed the second duty also. We clearly told him, the foreman, that please follow this duty of following the proportion, but he has changed the proportion also. I have still not talked to the field manager. I just want to know that now, after acknowledging the second mistake, what impact it has created on the money spent, without knowing the third mistake has also occurred. So about prices, I don't know anything. I'll assume prices to be standard price only, and I will only consider the second mistake which has been done. That is, they have changed the proportion mixing. They have done it 2:3, they were told to do 3:2. So now I will acknowledge the second mistake. While acknowledge the second mistake, now they have used 110 kg of raw material. Instead of using it in 3:2 proportion, they have used it in 2:3 proportion. That is, here it is 44 kg and here it is 66 kg. I'm still using the standard price because I do not know what third mistake has been done. I just want to analyze in bits and parts. First mistake I acknowledged and I computed the impact on the money. Now second mistake I will add on, and I will see the impact. On 110, now the actual proportion is considered. Actual proportion is considered on 110. Can you see? Actual proportion. Price is still standard because I still don't know the third duty the worker has performed correctly or not. Only the second mistake we are computing. So on 44 into 20, we are getting 880 here, and here we are getting 660. So total we are getting 880 plus 660. We are getting 1540 rupees. Now this 1540 rupees, can you see, if the proportion was correct, the cost would have been 1760. Now I'm saying cost would have been 1760. But after acknowledging the second mistake, the cost has decreased. Why the cost has decreased? It is favorable because in actual cost is incurring less. Because when I move towards left hand side, I am moving towards actuals. So why the cost has reduced in actual? Because the costlier raw material you have used less. You were supposed to use 6 kg and you used only 44 kg. And the cheaper raw material you have used more. So if you use expensive raw material less, definitely it will affect the cost and your cost has reduced. So don't be happy because basically the difference, that is the standard. Now 1760 will act as a standard, because if the proportion was standard, then this cost should have incurred, and by changing the proportion your cost is changing to 1540. And what is the difference? 1540 minus 1760, the difference is 220, which is favorable. In terms of money it is favorable, and this is termed as, the reason behind this variance is that you have changed the mix, that is why variance has arise. So it is termed as material mix variance. Now this quantity is your actual quantity, right? And this price is your standard price. But what this quantity is called? Is this actual quantity? Yes, 110 is actual quantity, but we have written in the standard proportion. Why we have written in standard proportion? Because we did not know the second mistake. We just acknowledged the first mistake. So this quantity 110, which is written in the standard proportion, is termed as RAQ. Price is still standard. Reason being, we do not know the third mistake. So what is RAQ? Let me write here. RAQ is termed as revised actual quantity, meaning actual quantity rewritten in standard proportion. Rewritten actual quantity 110 kg. Actual, the supervisor, instead of using 100 kg, he has used 110 kg, but 110 kg is rewritten in standard proportion. Standard proportion, I told the manager, I told the supervisor to use in the ratio of 3:2. So it is written in 3:2. And why we have used 3:2? Because we do not know the second mistake. We are just trying to compute the effect of the first mistake on the money spent. Okay. Price are still standard price because we have not yet considered the impact of price change. Which is, what is termed as standard quantity, because this is the quantity which should have been used and this is the price which should have been used. Slowly you yourself will create a formula, and then very easily you will remember the formula also, but formula we will create with concepts. Okay, so my dear students, you have to have a lot of patience with me to understand this concept. I cannot make you just mug up the formula like that. You have to have at least 40 minutes more patience. Yes, or maybe 20 minutes. Let's see. Okay. So this is actual quantity. This is actual quantity now. Now this 110, earlier it was actual quantity, but it was revised. Revised because we have to write in a standard proportion. Now this is actual quantity. Now can you tell me that, going back here, we have discovered the first mistake of the worker. We have discovered the second mistake also. Now, the foreman was given two duties. We have discovered the mistakes they have done in the two duties. Now call the field manager. Now the field manager duty was to buy whatever quantity Mr. A asks him. I told him very clearly, buy whatever quantity Mr. A asks you, but buy at rupees 20 and 10 per kg. Now, Mr. A has used this quantity. So definitely Mr. A must have asked Mr. B to buy this quantity because he has used this quantity. This quantity was supposed to be bought at 20 and 10. Now ask Mr. C, ask Mr. B that has he bought this quantity for 20 and 10. So going back to question, In actual, the field manager bought the material A for 25 and material B for 5 rupees. Okay, so that means prices have also changed. And I told Mr. B that bring whatever quantity Mr. A will ask, and Mr. A will ask what he has used. So Mr. A has used 110 kg, and 110 kg he has used, this is actual quantity, right? And he has used 44 kg and he has used 66 kg. Now this quantity was supposed to be bought for 20 and 10, but now after acknowledging the third mistake about price, we have realized that this was bought for 25 rupees and this was bought for 5 rupees per kg. What impact it will create now? If if the field manager has not committed the mistake, had not committed the mistake, then the story would have been frozen at this stage only. The cost would have been 1540. But since the field manager has done the mistake, now the story has gone up to this level. What level? 44 into 25, that is 100, 1100 rupees, and 66 into 5, this is 330 rupees. So it is coming out to be 1430 rupees. Don't be happy, because if he has not come, if he had not committed the mistake, the standard cost without his mistake would have been 1540. Now I am saying this is standard. Yes, for this mistake this becomes the standard, and now actual cost is 1430. So why the cost has reduced? Don't be happy, because if you produce substandard raw material, the price will be less. See, for 20 kg raw material, he has spent 25, but for 10 kg raw material, he has spent 5 rupees, and this quantity is more for 5 rupees. So, in total, effect has come down to 1430. So, whether you spend more price or less price, that has only adverse or favorable effect on the money, but quality gets compromised. So, hence the story is here is that the money should have been spent 1540 and it has been spent. This is standard cost and this is actual cost now. So difference is how much? 1540. Difference is 110. 110 is favorable, and why this difference has come up? This is because of material price variance. Because of the change in price, the variance has come up. 110. So now this 44 and 66 was actual quantity, and this 25 and 5 is actual price. Now this represents basically, I should write here. This represents basically the actual, just a second. Okay. This represents basically actual cost. Now this is actual cost and this was your standard cost. So if I look into the bigger picture, if my workers would have done, dear students, if my workers would have done the perfect job, then the cost would have been 1600 rupees only. This is standard cost, right? And since my workers have not given due regards to the three duties which I gave to them, the workers have performed their duties wrongly. Actual cost after considering the three mistakes, one mistake, then second mistake, then third mistake, the total impact which has gone up to is 1430. This is actual cost. Definitely in terms of money, there is a favorable impact. If you compute, this is coming out to be 1600 minus 1430. So 170 favorable. This is termed as material cost variance, total material cost variance. What is variance? Standard cost and actual cost. So standard material cost is 1600 and actual material cost which has been spent by both workers is 1430. So difference is 170 favorable, but we have to do investigation whether it is favorable or adverse, because in end it is affecting your quality. Now one more thing I have to show you here. Let me use red color. Maroon. The before showing that, first listen here. Now what is two to three confusion points are, which there are two to three points which create confusions in mind of students, is that first of all, this concept RAQ. Please understand, only one answer line I can give, that I am acknowledging, I am trying to compute the impact of each mistake. So when I acknowledge the first mistake, and you have to remember what? You have to remember what three duties I give to my workers. First is of quantity. How much quantity total is to be used? Then in what proportion is to be used if there are various types of material? And then the price, the third duty, price. It is written here. Okay, so there are three duties which I give to my workers, and one mistake I have to analyze. The first mistake my workers did was that they usaged the raw material more. Instead of 100 kg, they have used 110 kg, which resulted in adverse variance A, 160. And it has been termed as material sub-usage variance. The second mistake which they did is that while using the material, the proportion should have been 3:2, but the proportion has been changed to 2:3. So again, that variance has been termed as material mix variance. Now these two, now there will be little bit of overlapping. Now these two material, I'm putting a star here, and I'll write on the next page. Now just see the figures. This is 1600. Now 1600 should have been the cost if my field manager has not come. Sorry. Let me correct. 1600 would have been the cost if my first worker, foreman and field manager, has not committed the mistake. After just talking to the foreman was given two duties, right? After considering the two mistakes of his, only the foreman. See, held, I have to held my, uh, whom should I held responsible for the mistakes? I have to tell the foreman, because of you, dear, this much amount of loss I have suffered. Then to field manager also I have to tell that field manager, because of you, this much mistake, this much loss I have to tell. I have to bear. Now, if I talk general, okay, if I talk general, and if I say, oh, you two people, you, because of you I have suffered this favorable variance of 170, they will say, ma'am, it is not because of me, it is not because of me. Now I can, after doing so much of analysis, I can tell them pinpoint correctly because of whom how much loss I have suffered. Now because of the foreman, these two mistakes he has done, so considering these two mistakes, let me calculate total impact of his two mistakes. If he has not committed mistake, 1600 rupees would have spent. After considering two mistakes, amount which is getting spent is 1540. So on next page I'm writing, this is the star which is showing here. So basically the foreman was given the target of using the raw material. So his mistake is, after his mistake, 1600, which was the standard cost, would have been incurred. After considering his mistake, the cost has gone up to, after considering only his mistake, foreman mistake, the cost has gone up to, or gone down to 1540. 1540 rupees. So there is a difference of how much? 60 rupees, right? Which is favorable. This is termed as material usage variance. And foreman is called and told material usage variance. And after watching this 60 rupees favorable, he is dancing. Ma'am, see, because of me, 60 rupees is gained by company. I am just telling him, I'm going to scold him. I'm going to tell him that, dear foreman, because of your first mistake, which was termed as material sub-usage variance, we had suffered a loss of, because you have used more sub material, we have suffered a loss of how much? 160 adverse. 160 adverse. And because of your second mistake, which was the change of proportion, you have changed the proportion, we had a gain of 220. Mix material, mix variance, we had a gain of 220. So because of the 220 benefit and 160 let's say loss, net benefit has only been, in terms of money, 60 rupees. So Don't be so happy. You have made us lose also and gain also in terms of money. In end of the day, you should have done what he was told to do. So he will definitely be demotivated. He will definitely be scolded and given punishment for the mistake he has done. But he should be at least told that at what stages he has committed mistake. So basically, after doing all this analysis, now what is relevant from examination point of view, I'll explain you how you have to solve the question in exam. I'm just explaining the concept. So you have to tell him that because you have used material in a wrong way, first you have used excess raw material, then you have used in a wrong proportion. This has resulted in a net favor of 60 rupees. Okay. And then we will call the supervisor, and then he will be told because of his change in the price, the net favor is of 110. So in because of the both people, we are having a favorable variance of 170. Now, ma'am, are we supposed to do all these in this way of exam? We have to solve the question in this way in the exam. No, dear. We don't have to make these rings or these columns or these brackets. We don't have to do that. How we will solve the question in an exam, that I will now teach. Have you understood the concept? The total variance is 170. It has been attributed because of three reasons. First reason is that you have used more quantity. Then second is that you have changed the proportion. And third is your price. In MCQ, this can be asked that what are the reasons behind the material cost variance. So you should know the reason behind the material cost variance is the usage, sub-usage, the mixing, and the pricing. Okay, now comes the rectification or the mugging part. This column the first column has been given the name actual cost. This column is given the name standard cost. Can we name these columns also? Yes, we can. Above, I have written the figure notations also. Watching the notations, I can write this AQ represents actual and SP represents standard, actual at standard. Ma'am, what have you written? Don't worry. After watching this RAQ, this is revised and this is at standard. Now basically these are the four names which you have to memorize. Please memorize with me, practice with me. This is column number 1. This is column number 2. This is column number 3 and this is column number 4. I always start filling the column number 4 first, and from slowly from standard cost I go to actual cost because I have to pinpoint each mistake and compute its effect on the amount spent. So I start from the right hand side and then I slowly move on to left hand side columns. But while naming the numbers, I start naming from here, column 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. Now, how do we memorize these figures? Actual quantity into actual rate, actual quantity into standard price. How do we memorize all this? First of all, let us memorize these 4 words. Can you for me memorize 4 words? Practice with me. First column represents actual cost. Say actuals. Instead of actual cost, we say actuals. So say actuals. For second, say actuals at standard. For third column, say revised at standard. And fourth, say standard. Only standard. Again, actuals, actuals at standard, revised at standard and standard. Again, actuals, actuals at standard, revised at standard and standard. After doing it and after solving 3-4 questions, it will be on your tips because same format is used for other variances also. Labor variance, variable overhead variance, same format is used. Now what do you have to do in exam? How will you solve in exam? If you see a question of material cost variance, you will immediately create a table, okay, instantly. And you will create 4 columns. And you will number these columns as column 1, column 2 and column 3 and column 4. Then instantly you will, I have only asked you to mark the 4 words only. You will write the 4 words. Actuals, actuals at standard, revised at standard, and last is standard cost. And if my dear students, if you can write for actual output. or don't write. Then how do I write the formulas, ma'am? In for exam, formula is very important, very easy. You have written the names. While if you see the name, you can write the formula. It is actuals, so it's actual quantity into actual price. What is this? Actual quantity at standard price. What is this? Revised actual quantity at standard price. And what is this? Standard quantity into standard price. You can fill this. But while filling the columns, we will use the logic. We will not use this formula. We will not use these notations. No, we will fill this first column as if nothing wrong has happened. So what cost must have been spent to produce actual output? Don't forget about actual output, please. Okay. Then one by one mistake we will pick up how much material should have been used, what proportion and what price. Then after filling this formula, these brackets, you will find the answer. After that, you will prepare a flow chart, material cost variance. In this flow chart, there are two subdivisions. See, I'll go back. I'll explain you. There were two people in our company. Foreman has done two mistakes. He has used the raw material wrongly, wrong quantity of raw material. 100 kg was, instead of 100 kg, he used 110 kg. So that mistake name was given sub usage. Then he changed the proportion also. These two mistakes are given one name, which is what? Material usage variance. So going to the next page again, we will name the total material cost variance has arisen because of mistake of whom? Foreman. So instead of foreman you write, just a second, instead of foreman you write the name of his mistake. His mistake was named as material usage variance, right? And his mistake was classified in two parts. One was material sub usage variance and another was material mix variance. And the other person who, this was foreman, other person was field manager who did mistake. His mistake was named as price variance. So basically we can categorize the material cost variance in two parts. One is price variance and one is usage variance. And usage variance can be classified in two parts, material sub-usage variance and material mix variance. Now I will write it properly in the next sheet. Okay. See, after listening to story, listen once again. We are going to prepare, I'm repeating, please listen again. This is very important. Speedily I will prepare. We are going to prepare 4 columns. We will name these columns as actuals. This column as actuals at standard. This as revised at standard. And this as standard cost. But do always write, for this whole computation is done for actual output, right? Then write the formula. After seeing this what you have written actuals, you are going to write the formula as actual quantity into actual price. Then after reading this, actual at standard, so actual quantity into standard price. After reading this, revised actual quantity at standard price, and this standard quantity into standard price, right? So we have filled up the formula. This is column 1, this is column 2, and this is column 3, and this is column 4. No problems. Then we are going to write material cost variance. Leave some space and then classify it into two parts. This will be termed as material usage variance and this will be termed as material price variance. This we will do in order to speed up our calculation, because if continuously we will think about concepts, then we might take more time in solving the question. For first 10 questions we are going to do with concepts, but then we have to speed up, so we will be doing with these presentation techniques we will use. Material usage variance, which was the mistake done by foreman. There were two mistakes he had done. One is material sub-usage variance. I have not told you yet that sub-usage variance is also called yield variance. But I'll tell you when the time is right. Material mix variance. Now, how do you compute these figures? Do we have to prepare these rings and calculate, okay, material cost variance is 170 favorable, then material sub usage variance is 160 adverse, 220 favorable, 110. Do we have to do from here? No. You just have to prepare 4 columns. Then there is a trick. What is the trick? What is the trick? We see. The trick is there are 4 columns, right? So see the trick. Column 4 minus 1. Just look at the right hand side. 4 minus 2 and the right hand side 4 minus 3. If you subtract column number 4 from column number 1, you will get the answer of material cost variance. If you subtract column number 4 minus column number 2, you will get the answer of this. And if you subtract 4 minus 3, 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2, 4 minus 3. It's in the flowing form, 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2, 4 minus 3. What comes before 3? 2. What comes before 2? Now if you subtract 3 from 2 and 1 from 2, you will get the answer of these also. Let's see. You have got these 4 columns. Now let me write what we just a second. In the computation of column number 4, here it was coming 1600 rupees. Here it was coming rupees 1760. Here it was coming rupees 1540 and here it was coming 1430 after doing the calculation. Now column number 4 is to be subtracted from column number 1. So how much do we get? 1600 minus 1430. Now this is coming out to be 170 favorable. This is your material cost variance. If you want to compute material usage variance, you have to subtract 4 minus 2. That is 1600 minus 1540. This is coming out to be your, if you compute, 60 favorable. Then 4 minus 3. What is 4? 1600 minus 3 is your column number 3. Is your 1760. This is coming out to be, sub usage is coming out to be 160 favorable. 160 adverse. If answer comes in negative, that means it's adverse. If answer comes in positive, it means favorable. Okay, then 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2, that is 1760 minus 1540. This is coming out to be mixed variance 220 favorable. And material price variance 2 minus 1. 1540 minus 1430. This is coming out to be 110 favorable. So you can see that 110, 160, if you add this up, it comes out to be 170 favorable. And if you see this sub classification, 220 favorable, 160 adverse. Benefit and loss. If loss is subtracted from benefit, net benefit is shown 60 favorable. So you can even solve like this also. And you have to create these 4 columns. And while filling up these columns, I will use concepts only. Just to show to the examiner the formula, the presentation, I have to write this figure. Now, one more thing. Now, one more very important thing for my students' satisfaction. Ma'am, is there any formula of material cost variance? Answer is yes, there is a formula. You can see column number 4 has to be subtracted. Column 1 has to be subtracted from column number 4. What is column number 4? It is standard quantity into standard price minus, what is column number 1? Actual quantity into actual price. This is the formula for material cost variance. Many students have done at inter level with these formulas. Okay, come to material usage variance. Okay, let's write the formula. Column number 4 minus column number 2. What is the formula of column number 4? Column number 4 formula. Let me write on the next page. Okay, 4 minus 2, so that you can write the formulas properly. First I wrote material cost variance, which was column number 4 minus column number 1, which is, ma'am, how we will remember these figure, this thing? Just a second. Column number 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2, 4 minus 3. After doing 2, 3 questions, this will be like smooth cakewalk. It will be like 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2, 4 minus 3 on the right hand side. Then what comes before 3? 2. What comes before 2? 1. That's it. Okay. So 4 minus 1, what is the formula? Standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. We don't have to memorize any formula. If you just ask me what is, ma'am, material mix variance formula, I do not know any formula. I to just copy that standard quantity into standard price minus actual quantity into actual price. Now, next is material usage variance. Okay. Now let's see what was usage variance. Usage variance was column number 4 minus column number 2. So column number 4 is 1600, sorry, SQ into SP, and column number 2 is AQ into SP. Okay. Column 4 minus column 2, SQ into SP minus AQ into SP. Now if we take SP common, what is left? SQ minus AQ. Now at interlevel, some faculties justify this formula as like this, that in material usage variance, what material should have been used and what material is used, it is a difference and price remains the same. Okay, so simple understanding. That can also be done, but we do in the detail. Going back now, what was the second part? Material price variance, column 2 minus 1. What is column 2? AQ into SP, AQ into AP. Don't worry, I'll write properly. Material, you don't have to write all this, but I'll tell you what, just a second. Column number 2 minus column number 1. Column number 2 is AQ into SP and this is AQ into AP, right? So AQ remains common. Then what is left? SP minus AP. Now, this is how you can also justify material price variance. The difference between the standard price and actual price is called price variance. Quantity remains the actual quantity. So this is how you can justify the formula. Then, ma'am, do we have to write the formula also like that? No. Why? Because when you are writing column number 2 minus column number 1, column number 4 minus column number 1, you have to write properly. Column 4 minus column 1. Automatically you have written under column number 4 the computation notations. So automatically it is formula is created there itself. So you don't have to write. Okay. Coming back to our now two variances are left, mixed variance and sub usage. Mixed variance 3 minus 2. What is column number 3? RAQ into SP and AQ into SP. Okay. So let us write this. Material mixed variance, column 3 minus column 2, which is column 3 is RAQ into SP minus AQ into SP. Now the price remains the same, RAQ minus AQ. What does this imply? That what should have been the standard proportion and what is the actual proportion. So that is the thing. Okay. But if I would have told you only the formula and start solving through it, you would have noted your head like this, but in actual you should understand that one by one uh, each mistake's impact is calculated. Okay. Then the toughest fixed overhead variance will be easily understood if you understand this pattern of how variance is computed. Now the last variance is given to us. The last variance is material sub-usage variance, which is 4 minus 3. 4 is your SQ into SP and 3 is your RAQ into SP. So material sub-usage variance, that is column 4 minus column number 3, that is SQ into SP minus RAQ into SP. SP is common, so SQ minus RAQ. Basically, it implies what standard quantity should have been used and what actual quantity in standard proportion. That is the difference of only quantity, total quantity is considered. Is it clear? So these are the, this is the concept, just a concept. Now, again, I'm saying what you have to memorize. Only for me, you have to memorize only one thing, or rather, I should say two things. These four names, please repeat the names: actuals, actuals at standard, revise at standard, and standard. One more time: actuals, actuals at standard, revise at standard, and standard. After watching this name, you can write the formula also. After reading this name, then on this on this flow chart, material cost variance has two subdivisions. One was the mistake of foreman, that is the material usage variance and price variance. Usage has also two classifications: sub usage variance and mix variance. Okay. Now, how do you compute the formulas? Just subtract 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2, and the right hand side 4 minus 3. Then on the left hand side, what comes before 3? 2. So 3 minus 2. What comes before 2? 2 minus 1. Just remember my words. You will be able to solve. You don't have to mug these formulas. Reason being, not only these formulas are existing. If only these formulas are existing, then I would have said mug it up. But we have to do the labor cost variance also. We have to do the variable overhead cost variance also. We have to do the fixed overhead cost variance also. And I have not told you, we have to do the sales variance also. Sales profit variance also. So how many formulas will you mug up? And then you don't know the logic also. So you have to do the questions with logic. Now, first of all, you have to write down everything. Now, conceptual portion of material cost variance is finished. We will now do questions on this in the next part. And while doing the question, we will be considering the normal loss case also. First, we will focus on material cost variance. Once you have understood material cost variance, then labor cost variance is just a easy thing to understand, because this takes time initially, because you will understand my way of learning. Then it is a smooth thing. Okay. So write down the answer. From the beginning, I'm putting the pages. Okay. We started from, there are so many pages. See, if you understand the concept, then you have to have patience. Okay. This is the question given. This is the case given. Please write down the case. Pause the screen and write down. I'll change the page immediately. Pause the screen and write down. I'm changing the page. Now in this page, I was giving the duties, very important page. Every time I will give 3 duties in case of material cost. First, the quantity. For reference, in question it is given how much to be used. And then for actual output, I compute. Then duty number 2, proportion, and duty number 3, price. I'm changing the sheet. Please pause the screen and write it down. This was the computation part. Please write it down. I tried to compute that for 90 kg of output, how much raw material should have been used. This is the standard quantity for actual output. I'm changing the sheet. Ma'am, this is such a mess. Yes, this is such a mess because we were trying to understand. You think yourself like an Einstein and you're trying to solve the problem. So this is a mess. But slowly, slowly, it will get sorted out. So pause the screen and peacefully write down it. I'm changing the sheet. This is the next sheet. Please write down. Then I'm changing the sheet. It is not visible. Yes, please write down. In the end, it is written material mix variance. Then on the next page, pause the screen and write down. Here I have verified. Basically, I did the verification part. Let's see, when you subtract 4 minus 1 column, you will get the same answer as we have computed earlier. Then I'm changing the sheet. This is the formula. Pause the screen and write it down. Okay. Now you have understood the concept. Maybe you might not be able to know how to present the answer. That you will get to know once we'll start doing the question. No need to be in hurry to just learn the presentation, the shortcuts. Shortcuts will automatically come. Already paper is online, so the question will be framed in small parts only. So they might ask you the price variance separately, usage variance separately. So you have to don't have to focus on the presentation part. You just need to do the working in your rough sheet and then put the final answers there. So just try to focus on the concept, and the most important concept is that the whole calculation has been done. Just a second. The whole calculation has been done not on 45 kg. The whole calculation is done on 90 kg. That is the actual output. Actual output 90 kg was produced. So we have computed, again patience, for 90 kg of output, we have computed the standard cost. That is how much standard cost should have been incurred for 90 kg and how much standard cost has been incurred in producing actual cost that has been incurred in producing 90 kg. So whatever actually is produced, for that we have to compute the standard cost and actual cost. I just want you to memorize this much only. Okay. So now in the next lecture, we are going to do the questions on this material cost variance and also cover the normal loss problem. So thank you for now and happy learning. Thank you.